Denny Hamlin, docked 25 points, fined $50,000 for comments on his podcast, a Dirty Mo Media podcast, aptly named Actions Detrimental. Hey, man, we thought it was a great name.
I still think it's a great name. I think it fits more today than it did last week.
Yeah. And so, I heard Denny's comments, and then I read the copy, right, of all of the things that he said in his podcast. And I feel like that, I love NASCAR. I really do. I know it's not going to sound like it today, but I feel like this is an overreach. I can't help it. I mean, I got to be honest. Rubbin's racing, right? That's absolutely on the aggressive side of things, what happened between him and Ross on the racetrack. But we see this multiple times in races over the year. I've seen this in racing all my life. You take guys into the wall, you take away the racetrack. I mean, if they're smart enough to lift and there's not contact, good for them. But you have times throughout races where guys just blatantly either don't know you're even there or know you're there and don't care, right? We hardly penalize drivers for those type of infractions, and rarely do those drivers admit it, that it was intentional or anything. And maybe that's the difference. But we're now in a time where social media and outlets like podcasts, they give drivers a new unfiltered platform. And I think that as we evolve as a sport, NASCAR needs to evolve in how they view the way drivers use these platforms, right? And so if Denny gets out of the car and they get a microphone in his face on pit road and he goes, I wrecked him right there, boom, bam, I would view that differently than Denny getting on his podcast on a Wednesday and going, yeah, man, I didn't take care of that guy.
You would view it differently how?
I would say in the heat of the moment, you've gotten out of the car at the racetrack on the property and said, look, the thing I just did, I meant to do it. I might have a problem with that. But if you're going to go on social media or go on your podcast and say whatever you say whatever you want to say, I feel like that's kind of off limits in my mind, and so I don't know. I view it through a different lens, and so I would think about it like this. I guess I would say things on this show, in this room, that I would never say in a broadcast booth.
That's right.
Never, and I think there's a difference.
There is,
and so. I think NASCAR needs to. NASCAR's a view of how drivers are using these platforms might need to evolve as the platforms evolve, right? And so maybe they could just have a bit of an open mind to, hey man, the guy's on his podcast running his mouth. I feel like he ran his mouth, didn't like what he said, but that's sort of out of the arena, and.
You bring up a good point. What if he'd have tweeted that and not put it on a podcast? Is it the same thing?
Probably. I don't think they would view it. I think Twitter.
Because Denny said, controversial things on Twitter.
He has. I think that Twitter they are more adjusted to how Twitter is used, and they probably it wouldn't have stung them as severely. And now, his podcast is new. A driver going on a podcast and being so transparent is a new thing for them, right? Mm-hmm. It's new for all of us. We were all taken aback by what we saw or heard from Denny on the show.
Yeah, we reacted to it on Tuesday.
All of us were shocked by it.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's probably, why NASCAR reacted the way they did, because it's sort of it was a new thing. For a driver to go on a podcast and say those type of things. But I feel like that in the day and age that we're in and the way media works and everything, it should be, considered the platform, the place, the time, all that makes a bit of a difference in how I would govern that particular situation. Now, I would still go to Denny and say, hey, man, let's sit down and talk about this. I don't know if this happened, but if I was anyone in the NASCAR industry that was bothered by what I heard, I would sit down with Denny or call him up and say, you're going to give me 10 minutes. I don't care if you're busy, but we're going to talk about this. Can you explain to me whether you really intentionally wrecked him? Run me through that lap. And so, and then maybe I would react to that information that I'm getting firsthand from Denny. There's two other things. I would look at this as an opportunity. I would give Denny, instead of saying, instead of coming out on a Tuesday and saying, I'm going to fine you, $50,000 and 25 points, I would actually, I wonder why you couldn't go to Denny and say, hey, Denny, I'm going to give you the choice. I'm going to give you this penalty, 25 points, 50 grand, or I want you to go, to Atlanta on Thursday. I got a media tour lined up for you.
Yeah.
I got radio shows for you to do. I got local TV for you to do. You're going to be busy from probably about 10 o'clock to 4 p.m.
The old Bill France way, like the old school way, just
Yeah.
make them work.
That's right.
Put them to work.
Yeah. So that is, while look, man, we all think that promoting the sport is a good thing, but to be honest with you, Denny would not really love the idea of going into Atlanta and spending an entire day doing local spots, satellite media tours, and all those things. But it would get the message across. And so, while you're sort of punishing Denny in a way, you're also promoting the sport and allowing Denny to go promote the sport. I mean, behind closed doors, I would be taking Ross and Denny both to a fine steakhouse and giving them Rolexes, because everything that they've done in the past 2 years has drawn nothing but good attention.
Right.
Nothing but good attention. To your point, on your Twitter post of you not wanting neither one of them to change, be true to themselves, absolutely. Denny, don't change.
Don't change.
Ross, please do not change.
Right.
So as frustrated as Denny is with the way Ross raises him, Ross, please don't change that.
Right.
Keep frustrating Denny.
We need a rivalry.
Yes. And so I don't want any of that stifled. And I'm afraid that as, NASCAR reacted, they will stifle Denny's, Denny going on his podcast and being honest, right? People are enjoying this podcast. People are enjoying this sort of inside look in Denny's life, his business, how he views the sport and the things that happen to him on a weekly basis. I wish we had all the drivers doing that. Corey LaJoie is doing an amazing job with stacking pennies.
Yes.
And we need more drivers creating their own content like this, hosting their own shows, really, And so this is a great thing. And I know that NASCAR in their statement said that. We love Denny having his podcast. We love what he's doing with that. But I'm afraid this will stifle him and other drivers. Other drivers are going to see this and go, oh, man, I'm going to zip my lip for a little while here.
Of course they will.
I'm going to withdraw just somewhat. And worse than that they stifle the activity on the racetrack. Look, you don't have to love everything that happens on the track. You can hate what Denny did on that last lap.
100%.
We can all be frustrated by it. The talking heads in the media, myself included, can criticize and critique all of the decisions that were made. But it is drama. And you need a little bit of that. That's part of the recipe for a good show. It isn't the lead actor. It's not the lead of the plot. You got the guy winning the race. That's your star. And how he did it, that's your plot. But you got to have these little things boiling in the bottom.
Right.
And so I'm afraid that, we definitely don't want to go back to boys have at it and just lawlessness in the garage of, drivers doing whatever they want to do anywhere, anyhow, on the racetrack and off the racetrack. But you got to let these guys, have these little spats. And maybe they don't have a problem with it. It's the fact that he came out and was so blatantly, blatantly sort of, I guess,
People say that it's almost like he dared them to do something.
Yeah. See, that was I was talking to you about that, and I didn't feel like he was daring NASCAR. I feel like that he was daring Ross. Like he was basically saying, all right, I mean, when I listened to Denny's comments, it was kind of like, everybody been telling me I wouldn't do nothing. Everybody been saying I wouldn't hit him back or try to get him back. And this is my way of doing it. And he even said it was stupid because he cost himself so many spots. I mean, he was really honest about it. He was like, I was losing control. I decided if I'm going, he's going with me.
Yeah, and he was being sarcastic in a way. We all knew that. That was just him, the way he was teeing it up, just to be entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, there are some instances in the past year where this points penalty is consistent. Like, let's see. I got it right here. William Byron last year penalized 25 points, $50,000 after he wrecked Denny Hamlin at Texas during a playoff race. And so now Byron appealed that, which Denny says he's not going to appeal it. Byron appealed it, and it was dropped to 0 points and a $100,000 fine. So Bubba
Which I thought was unreal, to be honest with you. I couldn't believe that they
Byron was
back.
more than happy to pay that $100,000.
Of course, the points
and
is
get
what
the points.
Right,
I agree.
in the playoffs, yes.
I think Denny should appeal this. I think he should appeal it based just on that alone. This was a playoff race that all this went down between William and Denny. Bubba spun during the Texas playoff race in 2019. He admitted it on NBC Sports that he had done it on purpose to gain a caution.
Sometime later, even.
He was, and he was 50 points and $50,000. So, and the thing with Ross and Denny has been going on since 2022 at Gateway. They had issues at Gateway, Atlanta, Martinsville, Pocono, the Clash at the Coliseum. These guys just can't stay away from each other. And I hope it continues. But I think Denny should appeal. I know he decided that I guess he's not going to appeal it. I think he should, considering that, the points, again, just like I mentioned with the HMS points, I mean, losing that points could trickle into some other issues later down into the season. I guess Denny thinks, hey, if I win a race, it's all good. They didn't take any playoff points away. I don't think Denny's so much worried about the $50,000 as much as he is just the principle of it all.
The principle, right.
Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you a question real quick. Somebody in the industry that's, pretty relevant texted me last night, and this person is familiar with the rule book. I am not. The rule book's not public, so I don't know where to even go find the rule book. But this person said intent was removed from the rule book this year, so that admitting that he intended to go ruin his day should not matter.
I don't understand.
You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, again, I don't know if this intent, they were saying that the reason they had to do something was because he intentionally manipulated the race or intentionally spun somebody out, intentionally wrecked them, whatever you want to call it. And but this person said that intent was actually removed from the rule book language this year, and so it should not even matter that he admitted that he intended to go, I'm having a bad day and you're going to have a bad day with me, buddy. Yeah. I don't know if you know anything more about that. I don't. Yeah. I think that's curious.
I mean, there's been so many. I understand that in this situation, Denny went on a podcast and gave a lot of information about this certain incident and spelled out his reasoning for doing it and what he did and what he thought. But every freaking race, something happens.
There's an intention.
Every single race, somebody gets annoyed because they got raced too hard in the last corner, so they door you on the next straightaway.
Yeah.
And sometimes that'll cut a tire down. I've seen it cut tires down, and it wrecks. The guy goes into the fence into turn one. I've done it. I ran into the side of Reed Sorensen on the front straightaway at Fontana one year. I didn't like the way he raced me in 3 and 4. I door him on the front straightaway. My pipes cut his left rear tire down, and he crashed into turn one. Jimmy Elledge was the crew chief.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. And so my point is that, and I've had that happen to me, where a guy, I raced a guy, and I'm thinking, man, I'm having fun. We're racing, and he doors me on the next straightaway because he's mad that I'm not letting him go. And that's an intentional act that these things are just so common. Now, Denny's was much, much more aggressive, and he continued to beat on the back bumper of the one car as they come to the checker flag. But dang, man, I mean, that's just, that to me is, I look at that and go, damn, that's the same thing you see or hope to see every time you buy a ticket to a Saturday night, Friday night short track race. You hope that you're going to see some shit like that go down.
That was my point yesterday on Dirty Mo Live. Like, are we to really feel guilty that we are entertained by drivers kind of getting frustrated with each other? What are we watching?
I do. NASCAR's making me feel guilty for liking this.
But that's the problem. That's the problem. That's not okay. Yeah. We should not feel bad about that. And so, people that go at us and go, Denny just should shut his mouth. That is not what we want. And I'm not talking about we as Dirty Mo Media. I'm talking about we as race fans do not want to encourage drivers to shut their mouth.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go to Jeff Gluck's tweet, which was one of my favorites from yesterday. Yeah, you tell them. That's what NASCAR needs for all those drivers to keep their
Hold up. Read what he's responding to if you're going to read that tweet, because somebody went to him first, and he's responding to it.
I still think it's...
Well, somebody was like, basically, they just need to shut their mouths. That was paraphrasing the debate, and now he's...
That's what you just said. So
okay. I didn't know. Okay, I'm just helping out. That's all. Go ahead, read it.
Oh, man, it's so up.
That was up.
Well, it's all
giving the listeners some context behind what you're about to read is up on a podcast.
Well, that's even more up.
All right. Well, so I guess I'll get fined for that one too.
Mike, say whatever you want.
All right. Go ahead. Read your tweet.
All right. So, like Mike was implying, someone tweeted, you don't have to tell on yourself on a podcast. Keep your mouth shut and nothing happens. Right?
That's right.
And so Jeff Gluck's response was, yeah, you tell them. That's what NASCAR needs for all those drivers to keep their damn mouths shut. They show way too much personality as it is. Shut up and race, guys, and definitely don't do any podcasts. Thank goodness they'll all be quiet now.
Right.
And so, which it's funny to go. That's a whole nother conversation. Twitter was full of sarcasm and frustrations and people for what NASCAR did. People saying, "Hey man, just keep your mouth shut. Hey man, just don't go on your show and hey, don't admit to the crime." Right.
Right.
But then there was another large group of people that were just as frustrated as Jeff Gluck was.
Well, the people that are sitting there saying, shut your mouth, drivers, just know your role and don't say anything, are the same ones that'll complain about the races being boring and that the cars don't make passes and all these things. The same ones that'll vote in Gluck's Twitter poll that the race was no good are also the same people with the same lazy take that drivers need to shut their mouth. It's hypocritical.
All right.